and she was praying to Satyanarayana Swami. That means the Satyanarayana Puja was being regularly done. She was offering puja to Satyanarayana every day. And then she was requesting Lord Satyanarayana to grant him a son. And after their puja and vratas, as per her pleas and puja, she became pregnant with the blessings of Satyanarayana Swami and the Vishnu Bhagavan. And the early signs of Devaloka-like atmosphere already had started being pervading there. Sounding of the musical instrument and its own used to be there. And then, when the date of Swami's birth neared 1926, November 23rd, it was a Monday, Kartika Masa, Kartika Somvara, the worship of Shiva, and it's very famous. And the Ardra Nakshatra, and dedicated to the worship of Lord Shiva in the early morning, the Brahmi Muhurta, in the Akshayanama Samvatsara. That Samvatsara is called the Akshayanama Samvatsara. And Ishwaramba had a very safe delivery. And even before she had a delivery, when the pain started, and she went to nearby Satyanarayana Swami Puja. And then she said, until I see the puja and take the arti and take the prasadam, let not the child be barren. And similarly, the child, see, Satyanarayana Raju was barren only after she consumed the Satasai, the Shirdi Sai, Satyanarayana Swami Prasadam. And after she consumed it, Satyanarayana Raju was barren. And then here for the birth of avatars and the God type of the avatars, they say it is not a prasava, it is a pravesha. And therefore it's called the pravesha. Swami had entered into a room and he got out of that on his own as a pravesham. And then he was born as a Shiva Shakti Swarupa. And as a young child, when he was born, there are a lot of, because we are not going to full stories of the childhood, because a number of hours will be required, and even our entire lifetime, we may not be able to sing his glory properly. And therefore, then the Satyanarayana Raju, when he was child himself, because many of these tragedies are by intelligence and also by human nature. Otherwise, how can he draw crores and crores of people later on? If he doesn't have that human nature in the beginning or in the childhood, because childhood is the one where all our real gunas are going to be groomed. And if Satyanarayana Raju was a very pious child, and then he used to, whenever some beggars used to come and say, Bhavati Bhikshan Dehi, he used to rush out of the house and go in search of the beggars. Even if, suppose, somebody had told, nothing is there, go away, he used to bring them back and offer them something, and sometimes even giving away from his quota of food itself, and so that people will not object. And he used to feed them, and which he followed, like the Narayana Seva, even in the later years, and now also followed by Vasatsa organization, which we are seeing. And Swami is very present as Narayana Swarupi in every one of the people in the world. And that's what he used to say and declare later also. And he used to welcome. And he was a pure vegetarian. He said vegetarian means sattvic food. Sattvic food is one of the important things in order to be disciplined, in order to be calm, in order to be pure, in order to be peaceful, in order to be disciplined. And also, he had a lot of intelligence and was very active, was never sitting idle in any place. And he was also called Guru by his other children. And even was taken in a chariot of Sri Rama Utsava. When the Rama photo was there, he was put into the chariot just below the Rama photo. And like that, he had become a Sai Rama much before he announced it to the world. And then, as per the whatever practice, he joined school at the place. And school was not required for him, but he has to do a cosmic drama. And he joined the school, and then he knew everything. There's nothing more for him to learn from anyone, and therefore he was never very attentive in the class. He used to either help others, his friends and others, and no lead to learning was required. And therefore, sometimes he used to see the punishments given by teachers to the students in those days. And that was quite hard and harsh punishments. And somehow he used to decry that. And he, later on, when he became a little more popular, he wrote a lot of songs and ridiculing the harsh punishments in the schools and got it abolished in the schools. At the age of 8 or 9, when he was very small, he could compose a lot of Telugu songs and also sing well. He had a golden voice. Even today, see the Swami's voice, whenever bhajan are sung, and Swami's golden voice, bhajans are put, that certainly will be the best bhajan among the hundreds and thousands of bhajans that we may hear from all other so-called very good singers. And therefore, Swami had a wonderful voice and wonderful musical knowledge. At songs he used to sing very well and also compose. And Bukkapattanam School. Later on, for his middle school, he moved to Bukkapattanam. And that was little about 3 miles away from Puttaparthi. And so many times he had to walk because he had no money to go by this thing. He was not having any much money. And he was also having knack of siddhis of even at that age, not for him, but for other friends, creating chocolates or peppermints, fruits, etc., whatever they used to ask, even in the unseasonally time. And therefore, he used to have that Siddhi Sankalpa from that young age itself. And once the teacher was angry in the school that you were not writing down certain notes. And then, as a punishment, he asked him to stand on the bench. And after the class was over, the teacher tried to get up and go. And another teacher, Mehboob Khan, already came in. But the teacher could not get up from his chair. He had got stuck to it. And next teacher, Mehboob Khan, then advised, seeing Satya being made to stand, the teacher should ask Satya to sit down, and then he can go. And then accordingly asked him to sit down on the bench, and so that the teacher could get up now from his chair and move out. And this again, Swami said, this is not that he tried to give some kind of a punishment to the teacher, because he always loved and worshipped the teacher, but as a kind of a reminder for teachers that they should not unnecessarily give punishments to the children who are otherwise all right. And therefore, he was very pure vegetarian and used to cook many times food for himself. And also his grandfather, Kondamaraju, also wanted food from him only. He used to prepare not only for him and also for his grandfather, Kondamaraju. And he was very, very close with him. And was away against any violence and even animal fights. So Satya was avoiding going and seeing even the so-called animal fights, which used to be a kind of a pastime for the people there. But you are not interested in any of those things, and also not interested in going to cinemas. And he was sometimes going to drama, that preferred mythological dramas. And also, he used to accompany his grandfather, Kondamaraju. And then he was also acting in some of the mythological characters, both as lady characters and also as the character of men, and in various dramas. And when he was 10 years age, he was singing bhajans, and then he formed what is called a Pandari Bhajan group, and singing about Panduranga Vitala bhajans. And he made big groups. And today bhajans are there. And it's all because of Swami's own initiative he had taken from his young age. And Swami also said he was dancing, he was creating, he was participating in drama as Krishna, Yashoda, Mohini, Devaki, and almost any role. If some particular character role had not come, he'll say, okay, I'll do that role also. He was an all-rounder. And like all-rounder, he could act with ease of any role. And no conversation was difficult for him. He knew conversations or wrote conversation himself for various characters. And a lot of women roles also, he played with lot of poise and also wearing large saris without difficulty. And once one dancer called Vishendramani, who was a very famous dancer at that time in India, she had to participate in all the functions. She didn't come. Then the school authorities requested whether somebody can do the acting of Vishendramani or dance on behalf of Vishendramani. And then Swami volunteered. He went up to the stage, and then he wore a sari, and then whatever Vishendramani was able to do during her dance, he exceeded that. And even he could lift a small needle from the eyelids, and where she was taking the tongue, Swami was able to take it from the eyelids itself, lifting a needle and all that. Not that he had to prove anything to anybody, but the only thing is that he could always save people from the embarrassments, because the school would have got a bad name if the function had been cancelled. He was a lover of music, and always morning prayers in the school, he was the first person who is to go and lead the prayers. And if he was not there in the school, that means the prayer, if it is sung by somebody else, would not have been attractive or useful. And that was kind of the effect that it had had. And then Swami was also required to participate in a scout camp in a place called Kamalapura. But at that time, as Swami lived with his brother Sheshamiraju, And then there were monetary conditions not good. He had really no second dress to wear, and he had also no much money to even take food or something. So he had to walk the entire distance for the scout camp, but he did not want to ask anybody. And from that time, he was such independent, he didn't want to ask anything from anybody. Because the person who gives everything to everyone in the world, later on, how can he ask something from someone? And therefore, later on, from the Kamalapura camp after it was, they moved to the place called Uruvakonda. And the Uruvakonda became the real stage for Swami to make his further growth and announcements. And in Uruvakonda, it was called Uraga Parvata. And then Brother Sheshamiraju was transferred as a teacher here. And Swami was writing lyrics, stories of drama, and various. And even in that young age of 12, 13, Swami wrote one story for a drama called Cheppinante Chestara. Will you do as you say? Because this is what most of us pretend to do things and will not do as we say. And many times we don't even say. And therefore, Swami got this drama enacted and using the leader as Krishna. And what happens to the student Krishna story, most of the devotees know about it. I'm not repeating that. And therefore, he highlighted the entire thing that if at all we say something, we should be able to adhere to it and follow it. Otherwise, let us not speak, let us not give false promises. And that's why the word Satya was embedded in Swami right from his birth. And we followed it fully. And that's why it's called Satya Sai Baba. And therefore, Swami was telling, including the teachers, he told, even if it's a teacher or even elders, they should not say a lie just to avoid something. And in order to escape from some work, they should not lie. This was the Upadesham he gave in the early age itself. And now we are approaching this 1940, and just 1940, October 20th, as you know, Swami's Declaration Day. Some more dramas followed before that. 1940, March 8th, he was bitten by a scorpio, and then he fainted and he fell down. And then, although he had a devotee after this fainting, and he even said what is to be done, and after recovery, he told some people about some aspects of the life, and as if he could see it happening in their houses, although away from their place. And therefore, he could predict a lot of things. And then he was becoming 14 years of age, and then Lord Satyanarayana had a lot of, although did not have studied Upanishads or Sanskrit or any of the Vedas and everything, he could correct the stotras of the Upanishads or the Brahmajnana or the Dharma Puranas of one scholar who was the Narayana Shastri, who was just the neighbor, and whatever he was reciting, sometimes there was some mistake in that. And then he went and warned that the particular shloka, the intonation was not right. But that the Shastri was wondering how a boy who has not studied any of these things come and correct me, who have been actually giving a lot of these talks and other things and Upadeshas and even the kind of events in many places. And but when he went and corrected, saw the real text, whatever Swami had corrected him was right. And therefore he could understand and he became a devotee of Swami. And then a lot of people even thought this extra power or the supernatural power which he had gained, that he could be even a lunatic, as many times it happens. And then the people in the house started getting him treatment, even from a mantrik and a tantric and all other people. And therefore, they used to put him into harsh and barbaric treatment, as we have seen in the various stories that has been done about Swami and even Satyam Shiva and Sundaram. There is a very large kind of stories about it. And then even talking about it, we feel painful that Swami had to undergo so much of pain and suffering in order to give proper upadeshas to others. And then a lot of doctors are called, they also failed in treating him. Because a person who is really kind of a person who is suffering could be treated. Swami was never suffering. Swami was acting. Acting for what? Acting with the sake of coming and transforming people. And then another day was 1940, May 23rd. And on this day, Swami, all of a sudden when he woke up, he produced Amrut from his hands, like Swami used to do later on and during this Vaikuntha Ekadashi day. And then from his wave of hand, Amrit started pouring and he went on distributing to a lot of people all around. That is the first Amrit production or creation by Swami was 1940, May 23rd. And that's what God in the form of Satya Sai, or God in the form of Satya, had already declared. On that day, he told, I am Sai Baba. People went on asking, who are you? He said, I am Sai Baba. And people did not believe, as it happened even today. For certain critics, they never believe, and such skeptics and critics remain. And the brothers and relatives didn't believe, and went on conducting. But Satya was not anything affected. He went on conducting the bhajans and created Vibhuti also. From that time now, 1940, May 23rd, he started creating Vibhuti with the movement of his hands in air. And next Thursday, another big crowd of devotees had joined. And then they all said, if you are God and if you are an avatar or whatever you are, we want proof. You tell who you are. And then Baba asked them to give him the handful of the jasmine flowers in his hands. And then when the flowers was put into his hands and the palms, and then he threw the palms of those flowers of those palms, and that flower flew down onto the floor and arranged itself as Sai Baba in Telugu. In Telugu diction, it is read, it was Sai Baba. And therefore, that was a proof for all the other people who asked him, who are you? Sometimes even some people asked, are you even a kind of a bad deity or a good deity? And Father, he said, I am Sai Baba. And even said, Apastamba, Sutra, Bhardwaja, Gotra. He announced that also of what Shri Sai Baba was born. And from that day, Satya became Sai Baba. And then, along with Satyanarayana Raju, becoming Sai Baba, he became Satya Sai Baba. And from that day, Satya became famous. And then, soon after this, Satya's parents and brother took him to Hospet to visit Virupaksha temple. Hospet in Bellary district. Now it's a separate district by itself. And they went to Hospet, and inside the Virupaksha temple, when they all went, Satya did not go inside. He said, I will be standing and watching or guarding as your chapels and all that. And he was standing near a pillar. He didn't go inside. But when they went and had the arati in the Virupaksha temple, they could see Satya standing inside the Garbhagudi and just behind Virupaksha. And they were astonished. They even thought, what is wrong with this boy? Why has he come and gone into the Garbhagudi? And later on, just to check up, they came outside and saw. But Satya was standing near the pillar. He had not moved. And whereas again they went inside. And when they went inside, they could see Satya again in the Garbhagudi as the Virupaksha himself. And therefore, this made some people to believe that he is the Virupaksha himself, he is the Sai Narayana himself, and he is every deity incarnated himself. And therefore, during his arti and all that, and could not believe themselves, and they were astonished. And therefore, he who is inside cannot be outside. That is the logic. Whereas, since Swami is resident everywhere, omnipresent, omnipotent, he is both inside and outside. Only for others, if he is inside, that means the external. He was waiting outside the temple. How can he be inside the temple? He is the Lord of the universe. He can be everywhere and always everywhere. And then this October 20th, 1940 approached. On this day, sacred day for all of us Sai devotees, Sri Anjaneyalu, one of the excise inspectors, was the first devotee of Swami. And then once when he met Swami, Swami had said, I have some work from you and I will be coming and utilizing. And Swami did not say what. And that day he went to school, did not stay for a long time. And after some 1 or 2 hours, he came out from the school and he went home. And sister-in-law was there, that is Srimati Shoshilamma, wife of Sheshamiraju, brother Sheshamiraju. And then he threw all the books and the bag and went on to tell to his brother's wife that I am no more going to be with you. But before even he could talk, when Sushilamma came out and saw the Satya, who has thrown the bag and all that, she saw a large halo and a Prabhavali, a kind of a thing where from which a lot of high power light was produced. And then she could not even see, and she had to close her eyes and cry and scream. And she saw that halo around his head. She was one of the first person who could see that Prabhavali of Swami. And Swami went on to tell her that I am no more yours. I am no more yours. And I have other works to do in this world. The world is calling me. The world is waiting for me. And my devotees are waiting for me. I am going. Then he just announced that. And by that time, the Narayana Shastri of the neighboring house came out prostrated and requested that he should not move. And Brother Sheshamraju was also called in, and he also was wanting to speak, but he was speechless, and he wanted at least that Satya should stay until the parents could come. Venkamaraju and Ishwarama come from Puttaparthi, and then Satya agreed only for that to stay until they come. And but he did not go to their home. He had come out of the house. He said, once I have come out, I am out of the house. And he went straight to the compound of Sri Anjaneyalu's house, the excise inspector Sri Anjaneyalu's house. There is a big compound, and on there, in the compound, there was a big boulder. And he went and sat on that big boulder and started singing the famous epoch-making bhajan of Swami Manasa Bhajare Guru Charanam Dustarabhava Sagara Taranam. And above, he said, no more school to me, no more home, no more barriers, and I am not going to be bound by anything. I have come to get rid other people from the bondages. And if I am myself bound, then how can I remove the bondage of others? And then one photographer wanted to take a photo of Swami with the boulder on which he had sat and which had become a statue. And then by the time that he could develop that photo, that in the photo there was no boulder, it had become a statue of Shirdi Sai Baba. Again to prove that Sat Sai Baba and Shirdi Sai Baba are one and the same. And the next incarnation of Shirdi Sai Baba is our Sat Sai Baba. Then Mother Ishwaramba came, pleaded, served, and then even cried, and then served food. But Swami said, I am only taking food from you only today, only for this night. From tomorrow, no. You are not my mother. You are not going to serve me. I am not going to be under any kind of obligation from anyone. And then at least Ishwaramba requested him to come back home to Puttaparthi and stay at Puttaparthi and not move from there anywhere. That promise gave to Mother Ishwaramba, he kept up until the Samadhi. And even now in Puttaparthi, Swami's divine presence still is there, and Ishwaramba's kind of divine promise taken from Swami has helped us to go to Puttaparthi, Prashanthi Nilayam, and see his blessings. And then he also said that we have no objection for your staying in Puttaparthi and do your satsang, bhajan, call your devotees. We have no objection for this. And then they promised. But Satya returned to Puttaparthi, stayed in the parents' house only for a brief period. He didn't want to stay so-called parents' house. The guy said, I have no parents. I am the parent of everyone. And he moved to Karnam, Subbamma's house, a Brahmin lady who was a devotee of Satya and who served Satya with devotion. She used to call him lovingly, affectionately as Satya, Satya, Satya. And later, the Satya became Satya Sai Baba of our Bhagavan Satya Sai Baba today. And with this, the famous declaration, Avatar Declaration Day, which has taken place just on October 20th, we are closing for today's session. And Om Shanti, 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 one bhajan, and then we are closing session today. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. अंतर ज्योति जलाओ साई, अंतर ज्योति जलाओ साई, ब्रह्म सनातनी दया करो हे पूर्ण ज्योतिर्मयी, दया करो हे पूर्ण ज्योतिर्मयी, शिव शक्तिमयी कृपा करो, शिव शक्तिमयी कृपा करो, दीन दयामयी पतित पावनी, साई जग जननी कृपा करो, साई जग जननी रक्षा करो, अंतर ज्योति जलाओ साई, ब्रह्म सनातनी दया करो, दया करो हे पूर्ण ज्योतिर्मयी शिव शक्तिमयी कृपा करो, दीन दयामयी पतित पावनी, साई जग जननी कृपा करो, साई जग जननी रक्षा करो, अंतर ज्योति जलाओ साई. Sairam to all.
Sai Ram, and thanks to everyone for the Sai devotees of Sai Sparshan. And you had a good opportunity and privilege and blessings of Swami. And Sai Ram, best wishes to all. Sai Ram.